Ring ring.
Hello?
Hello? Is this Diana?
Yes, this is Diana.
Diana, hi, it's Sean. Sean Joel. Hey, I was calling about your property here at 12 Main Street. I saw that it came off the market. Just wondering when you might plan on potentially selling the property.
Well, we were on the market, it didn't sell, and we figure out if we buy something else, the interest rates are so high, the payment will not be much different. So we're just waiting for the market to get better, for the interest rates to get better.
Okay. So it sounds like trying to go for a lesser payment than with today's rates would be more appealing to you and your family.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, makes perfect sense. Good for you guys. Wondering if you did make the move. I mean, it looks like you live in an absolutely beautiful house. Why are you even considering potentially moving?
We were considering to downsize. We have two-story home, and we were thinking about one level and a little bit smaller home.
Oh, okay. So I'm imagining that you kind of it's too much space for you guys, and basically trying to go with something less maintenance. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. Yes, that is
Oh,
correct.
beautiful. Makes perfect sense. Just wondering what would that do for you and your family?
Well, that's definitely going to be much easier for us to go up and down. Well, there will be no need to do that. And also less cleaning, less maintenance, easier life.
Mhm. Are you looking for something like that here locally, or are you looking outside the area?
We're looking locally.
Oh, okay. And did you have any specific neighborhoods that you've kind of picked out? The reason I'm asking these questions is because sometimes we have sellers that have a lesser rate on their house and they're willing to let that go to the new buyer. So,
Oh, wow.
was just
I didn't know
curious
about that.
yeah, and I could explain that more if the right property pops up. But as soon as I could get a clear understanding of exactly what you're looking for, I can go to work for you and your family and potentially find you guys a great property in a area that you're looking for with less maintenance. That would make sense financially. So, did you have a specific neighborhood picked out?
We have an area because we want to be close to our friends here in the area. So, not a particular neighborhood, but I can share with you the area.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, that what is that area?
Rockwell, Texas.
Okay, Rockwell, perfect. I'm just taking a note here, make sure I have that locked in for my search. And as far as the home goes, I mean, are you looking for a two bedroom, three bedroom, four bedroom? What's important about the home specifics?
We would like three bedrooms, so we have kids and grandchildren, their bedrooms. So three would be good.
Three would be good. Okay. And anything else that's like a non-negotiable for you and your family? Obviously, single story. Obviously, maybe a smaller lot. Any other non-negotiables?
Um, well, not sure what to say about that, but you know what? Just send me those properties. I would love to take a look. I will speak with my husband and then we'll go from there. If we see something we like, we'll get back with you.
Yeah, sounds great. And you could definitely talk to your husband and let him know that I'll be on the lookout for you and your family. Just wondering when this perfect property does come up, let's say I were to find this house tomorrow. Let's say it has a 3% interest rate. It has everything that you're looking for, and it's the absolute perfect home for you guys. What would you need to do in order to purchase that property? Like, do you have to sell the current home that you're in, or would you be able to buy that property without selling your current residence?
We would need to sell the current residence.
You would. Okay. So, may I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
Why don't we get together? I'm going to be in your area this afternoon. I can tell you realistically what your home will sell for and also share with you a proactive approach to actually getting it sold this time around. That way, when that perfect property pops up, you'll have all the information that you need to know to make the right decision. Does that sound good to you?
Yes, sure.
Perfect. So is 4 o'clock or would 6 o'clock be better?
6 o'clock would be better.
Fantastic. Hey, Diana, I really appreciate your time today. I'm really looking forward to meeting you today at 6 o'clock.
Sounds good. Man, I'm so in love with your delivery. It's just amazing. Your repeat approve, just so good. And the way you turn it, I pretty much give you the answers when you ask me if I can go ahead and buy that home or I need to sell this one. You made it so easy to answer those questions. Loved it.
I
Great,
appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
great job.
Yeah.
Kept it real simple and to the point. Answer the questions with no flinching. So I felt like nearly perfect. I would say perfect, Sean.
I would say perfect.
Yeah, I would say perfect.
You
Perfect
guys-
role play.
Yeah, that was absolutely beautiful. Just pleasure to be part of the role play because your delivery was amazing.
Fantastic.
I'm
All
gonna.
right.
I'm saving this recording of the praise. Thank you.
You
I love it.
it.
Great stuff. Ram, did that help your objection, or I wasn't quite too sure what happened? With Rams.
John, so my objection was I was told that they're going to go with the same. It did help, but my objections I receive is, yeah, we're not selling right now, but even we do, we're going to go back with the same agent.
Oh, I got the perfect guy for you to answer that. Mr. Jose Luis Morales is here, and he's the expert at that objection. Jose.
Great.
So this is what Aaron says on the expire. It is an expired, right, Rem? I'm guessing. So he'll
Yes.
say something along the lines like, Ren, it's really, really rare that somebody with a home as nice as yours, that they relist with the same agent. Tell me, were you happy with the level of offers you were receiving on your home?
Yeah, the agent did everything he can, but unfortunately the market and the interest rate didn't help. So that's the reason why my house didn't sell.
Got it. So you were happy with the offers that you received on the home then?
Well, not happy to get it. Was, but the agent did bring about 4 or 5 offers.
Got it. So like you feel like that agent did everything they could basically, right?
Correct. Nice staging, photography, everything they can.
And you feel like they gave it their all. Basically, in other words, like you feel like they gave it their all, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What are they going to do differently this time around that they haven't already done in the last 6 months?
Hoping the market will turn around with today's interest rate cut. I was hoping that maybe things might improve and the house prices might go up.
Got it. So unless the marketplace changes, you're probably going to get the same result, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can I make a recommendation?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm not in the business of wasting people's time. Here's what I would recommend. What I would recommend is that you allow me to take a look at your property. While I'm there, I'll share with you 2 things very, very clearly. Number 1, what is the most that I can help you sell your property, and net bottom line, what it would shake out. Number 2, I'll share with you what needs to happen very realistically and very simply to get this property sold this time around. This way, whether you decide to list with the other agent or you decide to list with me, at least you've got a very clear picture as to what needs to happen to ensure that the property sells. So what's a good day for us to get together?
Tomorrow?
Okay.
Afterward?
And would 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock be better for you?
5 o'clock.
Okay, got it.
Amazing. I love that.
Love it. And Ram, these are recorded, obviously, so you can go back to it and write down what Jose said. Brilliantly handled. Aaron, any other insight on I've already got an agent or I'm using the same agent, although the home didn't sell in the last 90, 180 days?
Yeah. So, what I'm aware of, and I'm respectful of that, I have to be honest, John, it's really rare that somebody be on the market for that length of time, not sell and relist with the same agent. I guess I'm curious, were you happy with the level of offers that you were receiving on the property? Okay.
That was like verbatim from what Jose said.
Yeah,
It's
which
awesome.
is awesome that happens because, we're from the same kind of vein that we can finish each other's sentences and stuff. So that's where I would go with that. And then I would also say something like, I'm respectful of that. What I'm aware of is that I know that ultimately this is a business decision, really about who can help you net the most and do it quickly and efficiently. And as such, John, it usually makes sense to get a second opinion prior to entering into another multi-month contract that could cost you time and money. And that second opinion is around price, commission, and plan of action. So that way you can make the decision that you feel is best, this time around. Do you think that would be helpful or useful to you? So when you bring up like price and commission, bro, that could be like their sister and they're like, well, we're not that close. You know what I mean? And they become open to at least having the conversation.
Yeah, you put that doubt in there and then open it up. Ram, does that help?
Thank you,
or
Aaron.
did you get
Yes.
a second
very
follow-up
powerful.
objection to that?
John, can I add something? There were other homes on the market that were selling. So why this particular home didn't sell? When we have these conversations, we forget that there were other homes in the neighborhood, in the area that were selling, and we need to bring up that to this.
Yeah, and I think the way that that's a great point, Dan. And I think the way that you bring that up is with you have to keep in mind when we're on the phone, guys, people can't see you. And it's 50%, communication's 50, 60% visual. We actually listen with our eyes, not our ears. So it's like body language and stuff. So if they can't see me, all I have left at my disposal is tonality and words. Words are actually the lowest form of the lowest way that we communicate, which is interesting because we get so caught up on the words, and the words are very important. At the same time, tonality is actually more powerful. So let's say the other homes have sold, I'm going to relist with the same agent. Now here's how you group these two things together. So you're like, well, I'm respectful of that. I know that, it's really, really rare that somebody relist with the same agent, particularly when they've been on the market for 90, 120 days and they didn't sell. I'm curious, were you happy with the level of offers that you were receiving on the property? And they're like, well, no. You're like, yeah, and looking at it here, I don't know if you're aware of this, there was actually 2 other properties that sold in the community while your home was on the market. Did you know that? So it's really not a question, John, of whether or not people are buying and selling property. They clearly are. The real question is specifically, how come they're not choosing yours? So you'll notice with my tonality, I'm like, that's ridiculous, right? And it's communicating even more than my words are. Does that make sense?
Amazing.
So that's how you group those two things together.
Thank you. Awesome.
Jose, I was just curious if you had any feedback from my role play earlier.
The only thing I caught on your feedback, bro, was the 4 or 6 p.m. workout better for you. I wasn't actually there. I just heard the good things about it. I didn't actually get to hear it, but I heard some of the feedback that it was great, man. So I'm gonna take their feedback for you.
Now, Sean, if there was anything in that role play, I felt like you could have sped up your pace to match Diana. That was the only thing. But you spoke a little bit slower, but that's super nitpicking. I felt like everything else was perfect.
Thank you.
That was it. All right. Who else? Diana, do you have anything else?
Not really. This has been already very helpful. I did like how Aaron connected the two, the property selling on the market, and I will relist with the same agent. It's very helpful. I recorded that actually. I'm going to use it.
Perfect. And these calls are recorded. They will be posted on YouTube as well as our private recordings. All right. Who else would like to role play? An objection, a script, prospecting. Any questions?
Hey, John, Tim Freund here. Morning.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, let's do buyer broker.
Buyer broker. All right. Jose, can you be the do you want Jose to be the agent or you be the agent?
I'll be the agent.
Okay. Great. Go ahead.
Hey, Jose. I really appreciate the call, and it was nice that Luisa referred you over to me. And I just wanted to go over a couple of things about being a buyer's agent for you and help you with your search for a home. All right?
Got it.
Okay. So were you aware that there are 3 contracts with every real estate transaction?
I was not aware of that.
Yeah. So the first one is the listing agreement, which is what the seller signs with their agent that allows the seller's agent to sell the property for them. It tells them what they're going to be paid. It tells them what the price is going to be offered in the multiple listing service. The second contract is the one between you and me, which is the contract that allows me to represent you. It secures me as your fiduciary. It also tells you what I'm going to be compensated for and how much. And then the third one is the purchase agreement, which is what we're actually going to be writing when we find the home that you're looking for. So one of the things that you need to be aware of is how I'm compensated. So in terms of getting paid, typically the seller pays for the buyer's representative's commission. That's more often than not how it works. They do that to incentivize me to bring my great buyer like you to a home. Does that make some sense to you?
It does, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and that's our desire here, is to make sure that the seller is paying my fee. However, it is possible that they are not going to pay my fee or not pay my fee in full, in which case then it rolls over to you and then you're responsible for that payment. Now, there's a couple different ways we can handle that. One of the ways might be that we would write in our offer that the seller is going to pay for my fee. Another way might be where we only look for homes where my fee is covered. You may say, Tim, I only want you to find me properties that are that you're being paid for by the seller because I can't afford to pay you. Another way might be where we find some hybrid where they maybe are giving you some credit for some of the money, but there's a shortfall, and then you would just need to bring in some extra money to cover my fee at closing. And of course, there's always a third possibility, which is they're literally not paying anything, and then you would be responsible for my full commission. Do you have any questions on how I'm compensated?
What is the full commission?
Well, I charge 2.5% to represent a buyer, as I do for representing a seller. So on $1 million property, that would be $25,000.
Got it. And what's the standard in the industry? Is that what's normal?
Well, of course, every commission is negotiable, Jose, but yeah, that's pretty much about the range for our area. It's fairly typical that it's going to be 2.5. Sometimes it's 3 when they really want to incentivize us, and then occasionally we'll find somebody who's offering less.
Got it. So, I don't know. $25,000, like it seems a little high, like considering that obviously, like I don't know, like I feel like we're going to be pretty proactive and we're going to be like looking for a lot of houses on our own. So I feel like it's a little bit on the high side, like but I guess I have nothing to compare it to either, you know? Sure.
Well, and I appreciate that. And, you know, for an average agent who's going to put you on a drip, send you emails, you know, the same stuff you're going to find on Zillow or Redfin, for example, that I can understand you making that statement. And I would probably agree with you if you're doing all the legwork and there's, you know, all I'm doing is opening doors for you and writing a contract. I can see why that might not have value for you to justify that type of commission. But 95% of the agents out there, that's what they're going to do. But let me tell you what I'm going to do. This could be a little bit different. Not only am I going to get you all the listings that are actively on the market, but I'm also going to be bringing you coming soons. I'm also going to be bringing you potentially off-market properties. You know, I'm super well connected within our community. I know most of the agents that are top producers. So oftentimes I get calls and emails saying, hey, I've got a home that's coming on the market, Tim. Do you have anybody that might be interested? So I'm going to be able to bring you that added value that you're not going to get on your own. There may even be, in fact, situations where you say, Tim, I'm really interested in this neighborhood, and we're going to send buyer letters out to the neighborhood specifically trying to find off-market listings, somebody who's maybe a seller, but they're not an active seller because they don't really want to go through the process or something. So we're going to be digging and turning over rocks, and really we're going to be devoting considerable resources to helping you find a property. You know, I only work with 4 or 5 buyers at a time. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Got it.
Yeah, I do that because it's basically it's a time-consuming operation to find a buyer the home of their dreams, and I'm committed to doing that as your fiduciary to represent you, and of course also to make you happy, and then you're going to tell all your friends, and we're going to have a great relationship.
Got it. It all sounds really good. I mean, to be honest, this is all kind of new to us.
Mhm.
So what I would say is if you just kind of let me like think about it, and then once I think about it, then obviously we can recoup and we can basically, just make sure that we're both on the same page, basically.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I know. I understand it's a big decision. I'm sensing that the commission has got you a little shaken. Am I right?
Well, I just don't know what to compare it to. And to be quite honest, I'm kind of nervous with the third scenario. The third scenario where you said that the seller doesn't pay anything. Like, that's the scenario that I'm kind of nervous about because obviously I have my down payment that I would be paying. And then I have my loan costs that I would be paying. If I factor in an additional 2.5%, it basically it just makes it it just makes it really high, basically.
And I understand that. And I'll be honest with you. My goal is to find the property and have the seller pay your fees. In the unlikely scenario where they're just flatly not going to pay my fees, and I obviously can't work for free. I'm going to come to you and say, listen, Jose, they're not paying anything. What are you comfortable with? And if there's a number that I can work with you on, then I'll make that exception and I'll work with you in that scenario. I mean, it's not a reason we're not going to do business together, but I got to tell you, if you can't do it, you can't do it. In that scenario, what I'm going to do is I'm going to release you. I'm going to let you go directly to the listing agent, and maybe they're willing to work for free, right? The only thing is about that, and this is the thing you're going to have to decide. If you want me to represent you, I need compensation. If you want the seller's agent to represent you, and they're going to do it for free, then, I'm going to let you do that. The only thing I would say that I'd be concerned about for you is what is the seller's agent's goal?
What do you mean? What is their goal?
What is their job?
Wait, time out before we proceed. So this is good. So I'm really glad, Tim, that you're like you have the courage to work through this, because I know it's something that we're all all the agents are trying to figure out and work through. And having a formal presentation. So here's what I wrote down, kind of just quick notes, right? So at the beginning, there's just these little opportunities, right? So, and at the beginning, when somebody was like, you came referred, whenever anybody comes referred to me, this is what I say. It's the highest compliment I can get when somebody like Susie refers me to their friends and family. You clearly are important to Susie, which makes you important to me. And I'm committed to giving you the same level of service and results that we gave to them that caused them to, let you know about it. And they're like, oh, that's great. I really appreciate that. Right. I like how you said allows me to represent you. That was cool. One of the things I would work on, Tim, is there's a lot of ums Like, and I know that it's because you're like working through it. Whenever I hear lots of it causes me to disengage personally, right? And it also causes me to like, it's taking too long, right, to get to where we want to go. When he questioned you about the commission, we kind of went into defending. I heard a lot of eyes, like I'm well connected. I can do this. I can do that. I can do this, right? So making sure that we're structuring it into like, you know, how it's beneficial for them, right? And not just telling them like all the things that I'm going to do. So what would that sound like, right? Something that would sound like is like, let's say they, you know, come back at you like, well, you know, that seems like a little high. Yeah, I understand. And what I'm aware of is just like anything else in the marketplace, Tim, you always have options at your disposal. So I guess I'm curious, being that this is like a large purchase for you, what are some of the criteria that you are looking for in someone to partner with to help you with this sale? What's important to you? And then be quiet. And be like, well, you know, I want somebody who like, you know, can help me to guide through the process. They have a lot of experience. So I want you guys to realize this is no different than a seller because you're listing buyers. It's like the same process, right? So just like a seller would say to you, Tim, like, how are you different? Like, why should I list with you than Jose? And instead of verbally vomiting, which is where most people go, well, I do this and I put my clients first and I can do this and I can do that. Instead, be like, hey, I'm curious. You know, prior to entering into an agreement with an agent for whatever length of time, how will you know when you found the right one? Or specifically, what are you looking for in the agent that you hire? What's important to you? And then hush, breathe, and listen, right? Jose's tired, bro. Come on, bro. You gotta get some more Z's in, dude. So, right, I want to get their temperature. And let's say Jose says to me, because you're just stabbing in the dark, like randomly trying to throw stuff at them that you think is valuable to them, but I don't know what's valuable to Jose. So let's imagine I ask Jose, I'm like, well, you know, I'm imagining this is a pretty large purchase for you, perhaps maybe one of the largest purchases you've ever made. So in terms of the right guide to kind of, you know, help you through this process, what's important to you and Mariela? And then be quiet. And what would be some things that you would say, Jose? What are you doing, bro? You texting people? You're not paying attention?
No, I'm actually writing out the scripts while we're talking or writing mental notes. That way people can refer back to them, basically.
Love it, bro. You add so much value, bro. You're not just a pretty face with dimples, bro. You add value. Let's go.
Yeah. So I'm looking to see if like make mental notes of things that we could be adding so that people could just go on there and download them and practice them. No, but what I was going to,
if I was to say to you though, like, hey, like what's important to you and Mariela in terms of the selection process of an agent to help you guide you through this home purchase, what would be examples of things you might say?
People would probably say, well, I want somebody to be available. You know, like if I want to take a look at a property, I want somebody to be available. I want somebody to communicate well. And I really just want somebody that's going to look out for my best interests, you know?
All right. So good. So you see, he gave me 3 things. So instead of verbally vomiting and throwing all of this stuff at him that I think would be valuable, he's telling me what's actually valuable. And now I can speak directly to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's say he says like, you know, somebody who, what was the first thing you said, Jose?
I said just available to show, communicative, like responsive.
Yep, available. So let's stick there for a second. So you know how, Tim, you started to be like, I only work with like 5 buyers. But now because I've asked him, it's like, okay, so, you know, being that availability is critically important to you, you know, sometimes it may require, we look at, you know, 20, 25, 30 homes in order to find the one that really suits your needs. And when you say availability, I'm imagining you want somebody that's going to give you their undivided attention. Is that accurate?
Yes.
All right. So, you know, what we do really to be able to serve you at the highest capacity is at any given time, Tim, we only work with 5 buyers. That's the max. Do you know why we do that?
No, I don't.
So that way we can be available to our clients, where they have unlimited access to me, where they never feel like they have to, you know, wait to communicate with me, or if there's a property that they want to see, we can get them out and get them inside of it right away. And it sounds like that's what you're looking for in the representative that you hire to help you. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. We need
Okay, good. Then we go to the next one. And then the next one. See, because if I just say it like, blah, I'm just like throwing shit on the wall and I have no idea what's going to stick. And then more likely than not, what you'll get is his response. Well, that seems a little like that, right? So then, and what was the next one, Jose? Someone who's available. What else?
Responsive, like meaning like if I text you today, I don't want a response like 3 days
Good.
from now.
So then here's what you can do. So, a lot of agents, Jose, they're just like a one-man show. And because they're a one-man show, it becomes an issue of them being able to respond, right? Because if they're doing everything themselves, do you think they're going to be readily available to get back to you right away? No. So being that that's the case, we actually have a team. I have an executive administrative assistant. So if for some reason you can't get a hold of me, you'll be able to get a hold of them right away. And once we're under contract, we also have transaction coordinators, listing coordinators. So there will be zero amount of lag between you having a question or wanting to have a conversation and being able to speak to an actual human. I mean, I don't know about you, Jose. Doesn't it annoy you so much when you want to speak to somebody and you get like an AI, or you get like, you have to wait, hours in order to talk to them?
Yeah. But am I going to be talking to you or like an assistant?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So whenever it's possible, it'll be me. What's also true, Jose, I want you to be clear that everybody on my team is highly trained and highly specialized, right? So it's kind of like when you go to the physician, like the doctor's office, do you talk to the doctor solely?
No.
No. I mean, there's other professionals you speak to, right? Like the nurses, the physician's assistant, a nurse practitioner, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing is true here. So our transaction coordinator specializes in that. Our listing coordinator specializes in that. And I oversee the whole thing. I'm wondering, do you think you would get better service from somebody who's a one-man show trying to work with 10, 15 buyers, or somebody who has a team of specialists that are there to serve you and help you through this process?
Well, I'd probably say with a team, as long as I'm not like just like delegated off to somebody else,
Yeah, exactly. And I'm wondering, because I know you came referred from Susie, and like that's the best kind of place to get accurate information. What did they say about the level of service we provide?
They loved it.
Okay, so more likely than not, we'll be able to deliver the same for you, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now we go to the next one. Do you see? So we're like, now I have like a track that I'm following instead of just like randomly trying to like, hey, here's all what it feels like is like I have a coat and I open up my coat. I'm like, here's all my wares. You know what I'm saying?
What I would say, Tim, as well, too, and Aaron, whenever he presented this, like maybe like 2 weeks ago, when you said the third option is that if the other agent or if the seller is not compensating me, then you would be responsible for that fee. And you remember at the very end how you said, well, look, at that point, I would release you from the contract, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is that you would be able to work directly with the listing agent. Now, the only challenge with that is that at that point, you would be unrepresented, meaning like the listing agent would be representing both you and the seller, meaning like you have no representation at that point. So what I would say in that scenario, if that happens, like I would just release you. And if for whatever reason you don't want to work directly with the listing agent, then we can basically work out something at that point, or you'll have the option of continuing to work with me if you want to continue working with me. But I'm not going to stand in the way of the deal. Well,
yeah, and that's critical because it demonstrates that you're unattached to the outcome, because that's what Jose was concerned about. If that's what popped up. So it's like, what I'm aware of, Jose, is if we're in that scenario, there's a couple potential outcomes. The first one is if this is the home for you and Mariela, and we're not able to come to a meeting of the minds with the seller in terms of compensation, and it's an issue for you to be able to compensate me, I will politely bow out, because I do not want to get in the way of you finding your dream home. The only thing I would request in return is that you commit to giving me at least 3 referrals in a calendar year. The second option is if you want me to represent you and look out for your best interest during the transaction and negotiate on your behalf and, kind of guide you through this process. And, then we can come to a meeting of the minds in terms of, a professional fee of some sort. So either one will be fine, but I just want you to be clear that it won't be a reason why, you're not able to get the home that you want. Does that make sense to you? They're like, yeah, that's fine. So I'm just upfront, right? And then the other thing I would say, because I didn't, when I was going through it, is it's like, yeah, well, when I'm giving that first scenario, so if you don't, if it's an issue in terms of compensation, I'll politely bow out. And if you are okay with dealing directly with the listing agent and having to negotiate on your own behalf with a professional negotiator and kind of look out for your own best interests and not have somebody, between you and them, then yeah, I'd politely bow out. So again, in doing that, I'm dropping a little doubt. Are you sure you want to do that? Then we move on to the second scenario. But then letting them know, either one's fine. I'm not going to stand in the way of doing a deal. And this is no different than sellers who are what happens if you get both sides? Can we work something out? It's sure we can. It's not going to be a reason why we don't do business. I'm sure we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial to all parties. I want us both to feel good about what we're doing. Otherwise, we won't do it. So I'm curious, what were you thinking? And then they tell me, it's okay, you could pull a Jose, gosh, normally we wouldn't do that. I guess I'm wondering if we can come to an agreement in terms of that. Would there be any other reason why we couldn't proceed? They're like, no, I don't think so. It's okay, great. So let's proceed, and then you move forward, right? So, it's the same thing. We're listing buyers. It's the same kind of skill set that we use for listing sellers.
But what I would say, Tim, had you incorporated that the first time, I think that would have made me feel more comfortable with that presentation. That came up after I told you I need to think about it, and you brought up to the surface, for example, I think that the commission is an issue. And you want to hear something funny, Tim? So I was at a presentation this past Saturday, and it was my first presentation where the seller can't talk. She's got some sort of something that doesn't allow her to talk. So she's talking through a computer, meaning she types it up on a computer, and then the computer speaks to her.
Wow.
And tells me on the computer, she's like, well, look, I want to give the other agency the courtesy to still meet with her because obviously I've been talking to her for 3 months. And I look at her, I tell her, I get the feeling that one of the reasons why you need to do that is you're not 100% convinced on the price and the professional fee. And she looks at me and she goes, starts moving her head like that. But it was so funny because when you said that, great job on that, on catching that. But I almost felt like you didn't want to throw that on the table, but I almost feel like that will help you get it done the first time. And it basically, if you pitch it the right way, most people are not going to want to be unrepresented at that point. They're just not. Most people aren't. And I also think that we're making this a bigger deal than it actually is. I looked at the listing agreement. They added one form to the listing agreement. It's called a broker's compensation agreement or something like that. And in that form, it explains the different forms of compensation, but the contract looks exactly the same where it's okay, what's the total gross commission? How much are you offering out to the other agents? And then it just adds this one form. So here's another thing that I would say. Be careful when you're presenting. Ask yourself at the end of any role play, ask yourself this question. What percentage of the time did they talk versus what percentage of the time did I talk? So when you were speaking to me, what percentage of the time did I talk versus you talk? Right. And try to make it a more balanced approach. So if I look at, or let me ask you, in that situation where you were presenting, what percentage of the time do you think you were talking versus me?
Oh, probably 85.
Yeah, probably 85 to 90% you were talking, and 10% of the time I was talking. So we want to get that more to a balanced ratio where it's basically more engaging. Because if not, I could zone out, bro. Have you ever had somebody just talk for 2 minutes and your brain goes into okay, what am I having for dinner today? What time am I picking up the kids? What about this? Because it's not engaging enough, basically.
Yeah,
so
it was actually happening. If you noticed, Jose was zoning out. So what I'm aware of too is this goes back to story brand. So the reason why you want Jose to talk more is because he's the hero, not you. The hero has a problem. He wants to buy a house. If he could solve his own problem, he would. He can't solve his own problem. He needs a guide to show up, give him a plan, call him to action so he can get what he wants and avoids what he doesn't. That's story brand. So by asking questions and allowing somebody, because what they hear when you start to talk a lot, you know what Jose heard in his mind? Oh, Tim's another hero like me. I wish I could sit and listen to what he has to say, but I'm too busy trying to find a guide to help me to solve my problems. That's what happens. So by asking like detailed questions about him, it solidifies and really puts in its proper place that he's the hero, not me. So when you start to be like, I can do this, I can do that, I do this, I can do, that's making you the hero. You're not the hero, you're the guide. Right?
Here's the other thing that I would say. So at this point, like, where are you at? Like, are you having a buyer's consultation with them? Is this like a conversation that you're having over the phone with them? Like, at what point are you planning on presenting this?
Well, that's a good point, because I've never done buyer consultation meetings before. It's usually on the phone when they've, come to you as a referral. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that more on the phone, frankly. I mean, one of the things that strikes me is that I've been kind of shifting on a little bit is that it's just matter of fact. It's not, we've been hung up on this idea, oh my God, this is going to change. Well, it's only going to change for people that know that there's a change. I mean, for most people, they don't know how you're paid. They haven't thought about it. And if you just tell them that, you're paying my fee if I don't
Well,
get the seller
and here's
paid.
what I would suggest, Tim, because I've known you for a while, I've coached you for a while. You have a tendency to do the same thing with sellers where you try to tell them everything over the phone. Stop doing that. Get them in front of you so you could do a formal presentation. That's what you want to do. Do not give them all, like, why would I milk the cow? Why would I buy the cow when I can get the milk for free?
Yeah.
Like, instead, ask questions and be like, okay, well, ideally, how soon, Jose, were you and Mariela thinking about making a purchase? So if we were able to find you something in the next, 30 days that fit your criteria, would you be prepared to make an offer?
Well,
I'm wondering, have you already met with, so I get all the information. And then what I say is, okay, well, based on what you've been kind of sharing with me, I'm hearing a couple things very clearly. The first one is that you guys are definitely going to buy a home. The second one is that you're in the marketplace looking for someone to guide you through this process. I know I came highly recommended, from Susie, which is the highest compliment I can get. At the same time, I'm aware that we don't have a relationship yet. So may I make a suggestion? Yes. What I would propose or suggest, based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, is that we connect, we meet in person. What I can show you is a couple things very clearly. Number one, our proven plan that we used for Susie that helped her to get the home that she wants in the time frame that she wants. Number two, we can kind of go over all of the services that I'll be providing you with during this process. And then if it all makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident, we can take the next steps. You can engage me as your agent and we can proceed to finding you your dream home. Does that sound fair? You verbally vomiting over the phone and trying to do this over the phone is a recipe for what I would call fumbling the ball. Okay. The ball's being presented to you and you're fumbling it.
I was going to say the same thing, Tim. And whenever I used to work with buyers would be like, look, Jose, you're actually the first agent that brings me into the office and explains to me the process. And I really, really like that. So what we're doing, even like I have a consultation with my sister who's going to help the buyers, but it was a referral to me. And we have a consultation this Friday. She lives out of the area. We're having a Zoom conversation, a Zoom presentation. Yesterday, like I was on the phone with a lady and she starts almost like a listing presentation over the phone. Like, what makes you different? I've already interviewed 6 agents. Why should I interview you? And then she asked me what price do you think I could sell my property for? And I'm like, well, look, the last highest comp, because it was almost like one of those conversations where she was very direct. So I was like, look, I didn't want to beat around the bush. I was like, look, the highest comp told the 768. I got the feeling based on telling her that. She's like, oh, mine's way better, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, in order to give you something more accurate, is it possible for me to take a look at the property? I knew what the property looked like. I was actually the listing agent when she bought that property. So there's really no need for me to do that. But I knew that in order to increase the chances of me getting a contract signed, I needed to get in front of her basically. So I get in front of her and it's very probable that we're going to be working together. It's a divorce. but it's very probable that we're going to be working together now. But I would encourage you to set up these meetings where it's like face to face, either via Zoom or in person. The other thing I would encourage you to do is to have like a somewhat of a formal presentation, basically, like for like a framework of how you do a consultation, basically.
Yeah. So in other words, you have a formal listing presentation. You have to develop a formal buyer presentation. This horse shit of like trying to have this conversation over the phone, it's not going to work, guys. They have a lot of options and choices. And now that you're having to ask them for money, you need to get in front of them. Whether that be via Zoom, whether that be like in person, like whatever it is, and you don't need an office to do it. You can meet them at a fucking coffee shop, like doesn't matter. But doing a formal presentation. So what me and Jose are talking about is how to structure this. Everybody's getting caught up on like what to actually say, which is important. But the structure is super important. Is whenever anybody asks me, I'm thinking about selling my house. Great. I have a couple super important questions to ask you just to make sure that I'm fully prepared and I can provide you with the most accurate information, be the best assistance to you. I will be brief because I know your time is valuable. I ask a series of questions. Once I determine they're an 8, 9, or a 10, may I make a suggestion? We book an appointment. Always to present. I'm not going to go over all the things, everything I do over the phone, fucking the commission, none of that shit. We're not doing any of that until I'm in front of you. And the same thing needs to be true here. Again, this is a complete paradigm shift, guys, because you've been just accustomed to running out and meeting with people and hoping that they like you and then they end up using you for an extended period of time. You can't do that anymore. Once that rule actually changes and you need a formal buyer brokers agreement, you have to do formal presentations. The process isn't, let me go meet them as soon as possible and show them something. The process is, based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, may I make a suggestion, book an appointment, formal presentation, discuss with them the services you're going to be offering, whatever, discuss with them professional fees, how you get paid, and then ask them to sign a buyer brokers agreement and commit to working with you. It's the same shit as selling, guys. Like listing property.
Yeah. So the reason I asked about the where are you doing this is because I saw you go into there's 3 different contracts. And when you were going into there's 3 different contracts that sellers or that people sign, I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And at what point are we presenting this? So I'd encourage you to
yeah. And the other thing that I'm aware of is that's like out of place. Like we might end up having that conversation, but you're having it too soon because really who's that conversation about? Truthfully, it's about you, how you're going to get fucking paid. That's what the conversation's about. That's making the focus. Instead, if I get really, really clear, ask a lot of questions, what are you looking for? How are you going to know when you found the right agent? What are you looking for in someone that you're going to partner with you, like a guide to partner with you during this process? What are some things that are critically important to you? Then we have a conversation of products and service. Then we have a conversation about how we get compensated. Then, you know what I mean? Like that's how it should proceed. We shouldn't put the compensation in front of everything else because really what I'm doing is putting myself in front of them.
And Tim, if you're looking for some sort of framework, and you may want to listen back to this video, this is kind of the framework that I follow for a presentation. First, I start off by saying thank you. Like, hey, just want to say thank you for taking the time to come on to meet with me in person. I know that your time is valuable. I also know that you have other options from a real estate agent's perspective. I know that there's hundreds of thousands of agents out there, so I appreciate being considered, obviously, as your potential agent for the job. Now, the reason I wanted to have this consultation is I wanted to get very clear on what you're looking for. I wanted to get clear to the point that I fully understand your needs and I could almost think the same way that you do whenever we're shopping for a property. I wanted to give you a quick market update, let you know what's going on in the marketplace and what to expect in terms of if we're in a seller's market, a buyer's market. And then I wanted to just share with you how we work and how we're going to help you find the right property at the right price. Is that okay with you? Mm. Yes, it is. Okay. So some of the questions, Tim, that I'm going to be asking you are a little bit on the personal side. And the reason I'm asking them, it is not to be nosy. It's more or less just to fully understand your needs and to be able to think like you and to be able to help you find the right property. Is it okay if I ask some of these questions, even if some of them are a little bit on the personal side?
Yes.
Okay. And then I begin to ask questions. So I'll ask like, okay, describe to me your dream home. Have you seen any properties that you liked? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How many square feet? But then I start getting into the personal questions. That's the first phase. There's 3 phases. Remember, I'm gonna get really clear on what you're looking for. Second phase is I'm gonna explain to you what the marketplace is doing. And then third phase is I'm gonna share with you how we work. The presentation that you did, that's the close. That's the third part of the presentation right there. And I'll show you how we kind of bounce off from the other 2. So then I'll start to ask personal questions. I'll ask questions like, who's going to be living at the property? Do you have any pets that are going to be living at the property? Do you mind me asking, where do you live now? Do you mind me asking, like, where do you work? Where does your wife work? Where do your children go to school? Where does your family live? Where do your friends live? Why am I asking these questions? The reason I'm asking these questions, Tim, is if I understand all of these things, one, I can recognize patterns. So if I notice that every single home that they've lived in is newer construction, it's very likely that they're probably going to buy newer construction just because there's a pattern there. 2, if I understand where their parents or family live, I can read between the lines when people are being vague. Because people might be like, oh, like, I'm open to all of Ventura County, or I'm open to Westlake Village, Thousand Oaks, and Newberry Park. But if you really ask them like where they live now, where their parents live, where their friends hang out, where their children go to school, you can read between the lines and get a better understanding of what they're looking for. Now, the second step is the market update. Like I basically give them a quick market update. I'll say, okay, so based on what you've told me, you mentioned to me that you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or I'll transition like this. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get some feedback from you as to what the marketplace is doing. So I'm going to show you online a couple properties that are available in your price range. And I want to get some feedback as to what you like about these properties and what you don't like about these properties. Now, the reason I'm showing them this is just so that they can get an understanding of what the marketplace is. So like, let's say that you had somebody that was looking in Oxnard or in Camarillo under 800,000. I would say, look, this is my search criteria. This is everything available in Camarillo under 800,000. It shows 3 properties available in Camarillo under 300,000. Now, you're probably wondering, like, I see more for sale signs, like, where are all the other listings at? If we click pending, there's actually 15 available houses. Now, what this tells me is that 15 of the properties are available or in escrow, and only 3 are available. Not only that, but look how fast these properties sold. So I'm basically setting realistic expectations in this phase, and then I transition to the phase of, okay, Tim, this is the way that we work. And a lot of times in the setting the market expectations, like I had this guy that was like, yeah, I want to buy a property for 650 or 600,000 in Oxnard. I show him everything that is available. I'm like, look, the only properties that are at 600 are cash only, and they're complete fixer uppers. Do you have the ability to purchase in cash? No, I don't. Do you have the ability to, are you okay with buying an extreme fixture? No, I'm not. Okay. So realistically speaking, you're not going to be in the $600,000 range. You're going to be in the $700,000 to $750,000 range. Are you good with that? No, I'm not. Okay. Well, then we have to make a decision whether it makes sense or whether it doesn't make sense. I'd rather be upfront with you right now than to basically like give you hope that we're going to find something in the $600,000 range, knowing that the only properties in the $600,000 range are cash or complete fixers. You see how I'm like, the second phase, I'm like setting expectations as to what's realistic, what's not. This is, if the market was trending up, this is where I would be setting those types of expectations. Look at the list price, look at what it's sold for. Then the third phase, this is the asking for the compensation. This is how I transition. I'll say something along the lines, well, look, Tim, this is the way we work. I'm going to put a lot of time. I'm going to put a lot of energy into helping you find the right property. Meaning I'm 100% committed to helping you find the best possible deal. And I'm 100% committed to helping you find the right home. Now, the only thing that I asked him from you is that same 100% commitment, meaning I'm going to be 100% exclusive to you. Or are you okay with providing me with that same type of commitment back? Where I'm going to put a lot of time, energy, and resources. I'm going to be 100% committed to helping you find the right property. The only thing that we ask is that same 100% commitment back to us, meaning that you're working with us on an exclusivity basis. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in order for us to enter into this exclusivity agreement, it does require that we take care of some paperwork. The paperwork is called the buyer brokers agreement. It basically states that I am your agent if you decide to buy a property, and that you are my client. It basically states that. Now, the only thing that we would have to talk about would be the compensation. And that's where you would transition into the compensation agreement. But I would say that it's not just like over the phone. It's like having like a process to fully understand what they're looking for, setting the proper expectations, and then telling them how you work. I think that if you do it in that process, it'll make it so that you get more contracts signed, basically.
Okay.
Not I think, I know.
Yeah.
Not only that, here's what typically happens with a very high probability. After we end the conversation, number one, I know if they're like a real buyer or not, because I've explained to them what's going on in the market and what's realistic or not. And number two, a lot of times when I walk away, I already know what neighborhoods they're going to be interested in just based on the conversation. I'll give you an example. I had a client that had been working with another agent for 6 months back in the day. I asked him, like, have you written any offers? And he said, yes, I've written an offer on this property, this property, and this property. They were all in the same area, but they were telling me I'm open to all of Oxnard. I was like, nope, they're going to buy here. And sure enough, they ended up buying in that community that I thought, just based on asking the right questions. So the whole purpose of the consultation is not only to get a buyer's broker agreement signed, but it's to really get to understand their needs so that you can think like them. And at the end of the presentation, you can almost visualize which neighborhoods are going to be the best fit. That way you're not wasting their time and you're extremely efficient in the home showing process. And it's for them to have realistic expectations as what's available, what's not available. And it's also to get a buyer's broker agreement signed, but that's only a small portion of the presentation. It's like the close. It's not even the whole purpose of it, you know? Even before we were getting buyer brokers agreement signed, we were having the buyer's consultation for the sole reason of setting proper expectations and really getting to know the client's needs. That's how valuable I felt that these consultations were.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot different. I've never done buyer consultations in that way, so that'll be a good change. I can make that work.
Yeah.
Right. Refer back to this video, and we'll keep working on this NAR settlement stuff in weeks to come or months to come until August. Aaron, Jose, last insight for the audience, please.
And what I was going to say, Tim, if you want me to do like a buyer's consultation in the next meeting, I'm happy to do one for you guys, just so that you guys can see what that would look like, basically.
Yeah, it'd be great. Sure.
Awesome.
The only thing is it won't be next week because we'll be out of town next Wednesday. It'll be the week after that, basically.
Okay.
Just to set proper expectations.
Yeah, that's right.
See you in a couple weeks. Aaron, last insight for the audience.
Yeah, so I think what's true is like what this is about is just really like evolving. It's about refining your process. Agents of the future will be rock star salespeople, not order takers. In the past, they've been able to be order takers because they're like what they would be compensated was basically like, you know, they could expect it no matter what. That's no longer the case. You have to demonstrate value. You have to follow a process.
Rockstar salespeople. All right, let's go, guys. We'll see you all back here next week. And in 2 weeks, Jose will be doing the consultation. All right, make it a great day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You guys.